thank you all for joining me again at MTD CNC, and we appreciate you being here. Today, I'm with Richard. We're standing in front of a multitasking Matsuura machine, but before we get into the significance of this machine, I want to talk a little bit with Richard about, believe it or not, he found a used Matsuura machine on the market and was able to purchase it and implement it in his shop as the first Matsuura, kind of as a test. So let's talk about how that test went, Richard. You purchased a used Matsuura. What was that like?
Well, because of the relationship I have with Selway, I was able to find a used Matsuura. It's a 35B, has 32 pallets and a 20,000 RPM spindle. And the guy that I got it from, the guy that they led me to, really runs a nice shop. He's the first owner of the machine. I very seldom buy used machines, but this was an exception. It's a big investment to get into a new one, and this is a good way for me to get the shop's feet wet with automation and get my programmers up to speed with what it takes to schedule different parts on the same machine. In fact, it has over 300 tools, and it just took a little while for everybody to get used to. One of our programmers does have that history in his background already, so that helped a lot. But I just wanted to get my feet wet without having the huge investment at the beginning, right? And so it was fortunate I was able to find a used one. And it runs just as good as the new one. It's got to be 12, 13 years old now, and it's never been crashed or anything, so it's really in good shape. You do have to be careful with these. You don't want to ever crash these machines. That's why they come with that good software, the accident avoidance software. I don't remember the name of it right now, but you always run the programs through that post to make sure the machine's not going to bump into itself.
Are we talking about Complete, that software?
Yeah,
great software. Yeah. We know it very well.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something that said, I wanted to get my feet wet. I like that a lot. That makes sense. It is a big investment, especially when you're just getting into that world of pallet change. You mentioned all the tools. You mentioned you had a guy here that was somewhat familiar.
Yeah.
Were you able to quickly implement it, first of all? And secondly, I think you've already mentioned this, but the precision was there, the accuracy was there. It was a second-hand machine, but even to this day, running fantastic. And then third, none of us want to crash our machine. So let's just go ahead and say that right now, especially with our investment. So continually to run accurate. And how quickly were you able to really get this thing up and going?
Well, it did take, I'd say probably 3 months, to be realistic. It didn't happen overnight. It takes a while to gather all the tool holders and all the tools together, and get together, like, what kind of parts do you want to run together on that machine. So we did it. We did it fairly quickly, and we ran that for a while. One of the issues was we installed it on a regular piece of concrete, and it should have been put on a foundation. So that's why we're over on this side of the shop today, because all of these machines are sitting on a 24-inch thick foundation, specifically built to hold this machine. So, and it just works better that way. It was accurate over there, but it's more accurate here.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
So to me, Richard, it sounds to me like you kind of knew the direction you needed to go in. You knew you wanted the pallet change. You knew you wanted to maybe increase your precision. That's what Matsuura is known for, right? Yeah. You wanted to get your feet wet in it. And in my opinion, 3 months is a good amount of time. But you also mentioned we got to know what jobs to get. You got to know, you make sure that it's being fed all the time. And now it's running 24 hours a day. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
Also, did that create the confidence you needed to invest in another 1, 2, 3, 4 machines?
Yes, it did. And, especially really did open our eyes to be able to automate. A lot of the parts that we were making before, it would take 4 or 5 operations, and now it's 1 or 2 operations, right? So obviously that builds in accuracy. The fact that you can let it run overnight builds in a better delivery schedule, so you can shrink up your delivery, the scheduling to the customer. And then of course this machine is a CUBLEX-35, and this was actually the machine we bought after the used one we're talking about. I bought this one next. We bought it brand new, and we really wanted to be able to turn and mill on the same machine. A lot of the parts we make need that accuracy, where you have some really nice, the blueprint ties a lot of the true position and the way it's been designed is it's just best to be able to do the turning and the milling at the same time. It really builds a lot of accuracies into the part. And again, once you get it set up, we can run, a lot of parts overnight. So the thing about having a mill turn machine, it does change the tool holders that you need. We have to go with the USK, and which is great. I mean, they're great holders. That's what we needed to do, and they're just. It's not like the old Cat 40 or the Cat 50 taper holders. These are nice and compact. That's so that we can hold the lathe tools more accurately.
Yeah, very well said, Richard. You know what's going through my mind a little bit while you're discussing all this is you started with, we got the 5-axis Matsuura machine, the used one, and reduced operations that were 5-4 setups.
Yeah.
So you saw something going, wow, okay, even if I have an extremely accurate machine, but I have to change the setup 3-4 different accurate machines, there might be some operator error in between there, maybe some touch-offs or whatever it's going to be in between machine. So it seems to me, and let me not assume, we know what that does to everyone, but it seems to me like you saw the potential of what was being done and said, you know what, let's take it one step further and do both the turning and the milling inside the machine, which is what brought you to this answer. Is that kind of the path?
No, absolutely, yeah. To be able to put the turning and the milling in one machine really does make a lot of difference. So this is a Matsuura, like we said, CUBLEX-35. There's other mill turn machines. There's machines that look like a lathe that have a mill head on them, which have different applications. They're good on longer shafts and things like that. We're making kind of short parts that are large in diameter, and they don't have that need for a tailstock holding up the end of it. So this vertical arrangement really works well for the parts we make. So,
yeah, and that makes sense too, Richard. I mean, ultimately, we're trying to find what works best for our parts, right?
Right.
And if you get some crazy job in the near future from people watching this video and going, I like that Richard guy, let's give them some more work, I'm sure you'll invest in the next machine that's going to allow you to do the next new cool job, right?
Of course, absolutely. Absolutely. We are in the last few years, we've been expanding pretty well each year. We occupy the whole building now. As before, we rented out this side of the building since we've owned it. And it just feels good to be able to have the room to expand a little. And the customers really like what we have. When they see that we have larger capacities and we can do this kind of thing, we can mill and turn in the same machine, they send more work our way.
Richard, this wasn't even a part of the conversation, guys, but I have to talk about it because we are in San Jose. You talked about expanding the building. You also talked about the footprint of some of these machines. How expensive is real estate here in order to do these expansions? Yeah. So how important is it to get as much as we can by square foot of our real estate, right?
Sure, of course. You want to make the most out of it, of everything, right? Yeah. So we designed the, like the air systems and the electrical systems to be easily expandable, and you put a little thought in ahead of time, and you can get the most out of it in the long run. So we do have room for a few more machines here. We have another machine on order already. We have the foundation already poured, and more coming in the future.
And you've been doing this about 30 years, I believe.
So it's our 40th year.
40 years. Yeah. So what I want to do to conclude this video is just offer your website or any information where someone can find out more about you, because after hearing all this, you're going to get some phone calls.
Well, okay. Well, I have we're just updating the website now, so it'll be nice again. My website is rsjmachining.com, and right now it needs a little work, but it's being worked on as we talk.
But we can still get in touch with you through it, right?
You can.
There we go.
Yeah,
Ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what we want, and it will be updated very soon. For those of you watching, this is what happens when something like what happened with you, Richard, you jump into a new machine, give it a go. Maybe something like a Matsuura is going to give this precision from day one to it is from day 30, and then you can expand and grow and continue to grow like you're doing now. Congratulations on the 40 years, Richard. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
If you guys like Richard as much as I do, give him a buzz, give them a call, see if they can do the work that you need them to do as well. Richard, one more time, my friend, thank you so much.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Nice meeting you.